Hello, I'm filming this video to basically defend the ZZ method. So before we start, why do I have credibility to do this? Well, I'll read out my current session best stack matter times. So 6.8 through single, 8.59 mean of 3, 9.085, 9.9 average of 12, 10.64 average of 100, and 11.06 average of 1,000. So I think it's safe to say that I'm averaging just under sub 11 because my average of 1,000 has been dropping constantly for the past couple of days. So yeah, I'm quite fast for someone who uses ZZ, and that's what I think of credibility. If you think I need to be faster, sorry, I'm not, but we can work with it. So first things first, in general, ZZ is the best method for feet. Jay said that, I agree with him, because rotationless and efficiency, and a good last layer, and you also don't need to use slice moves like in Roo, so don't use Roo for feet. And for OH, I would argue that it's a lot better than CFOP, although Roo is the best OH method, which is sad. Unless you remove the table, then ZZ is the best. So now we're going to start with a CFOP and ZZ comparison. So I've written all my notes down, but we're going to start up here like you do. So, so you have time in seconds, turns in standard slice ETM, and then TPS in slice ETM per second. That's it. Those are the units we're going to be using because you do. So the way you get faster is by increasing your TPS or reducing the number of turns you use. If you do any of those, you'll get faster. And I'm going to establish, hopefully, that ZZ is more efficient and has an equal, at least, TPS to CFOP. But we're going to be talking about ear cross at least, because ear line's bad for two-handed. So I've written down all the move counts here. So ear cross, X ear line, so an ear line plus a block, or X ear cross, so an ear cross plus a pair. And then for CFOP there's cross and X cross, so 9, 12, 13, 4 first step, 6 and 9 for CFOP. For these I've gotten 7 per pair, which is what Kian used in his presentation, and I think most people agree it's about 7 moves per pair if you do things like keyhole or multi-slotting, etc., which reduce the move count. And then last layer, ZBLL is about 15, so plus 1.5 for AUF, 16.5, and then OLL PLL is about 23, and then you add 2.25 for AUF to get 25.25, because there are 3 AUFs in CFOP last layer. So that gives a total of, for the best ZZ, 49.5, well, best in move count, worst 53.5, and then CFOP with X cross 56.25 and normal cross 60.25. So you're thinking, how do I get those numbers? I've got my sources there. If you can't bother to read them, I'll say them. So for ear cross, an ear line is 7, and you can influence pieces without altering the move count that much. So let's say you've got this situation here. I could either do F prime to orientate the 4 edges on front, or I can do F, which will influence them. So you can do, it's basically just the directions of your F and B moves, which will save you the most amount of moves. But if ear line 7, 2 moves for 2 pieces is probably realistic. Well, it's very realistic. I'll leave these two because they're the most controversial, I guess. Well, the least established, it's a better word. So X cross, for a non-EO 2x2x2, it's about 5.5 moves, according to a Petra solver who definitely was sub 10. I mentioned that above, and solving 2 extra pieces, including their orientation, in 3.5 moves, which, if you don't do Petrus and you don't practice 2x2x2 every single time, and like you don't work to get that down, you could, like, a 9 is a very good target for that, although some people could argue 8 optionally, but 9, 8 doesn't matter too much. And then cross is 6, but it's the worst one, and most CFOP solvers who are good can do an X cross every solve, so we'll just ignore it anyway. So for this, I've got down an EO 2x2x2 was 9. So as I mentioned earlier, according to this Petra solver, 5.5 is a good move count for a non-EO 2x2x2. So 3.5 moves for doing EO is quite realistic. Also, you could look at the other way around. So EO is about, I want to say 4 or 3 moves. It's around there, like just pure EO of the cube. And you then have another 6 moves to solve a 2x2x2 with a restriction moveset. So if you do them at the same time, 9's a very good target that we decided is good for humans. So now Exio line, you're solving 1 extra piece, and I put that down as 12. So if an EO 2x2x2 was, let's say, 10 or 11, I think that compensates for it because you're only solving 1 more piece. And then similarly, I did Exio cross based off Exio line being 12, adding 1 more move for 1 piece is 13. So again, you could do an F2 or something. No, R prime F2 R prime instead of F2 R, no, R prime, you don't know what I'm saying. So let's say that was there. I could do that, or I could do that, which is less efficient, I think. So I hope you can agree with those move counts, because I haven't tried to be biased at all. I've tried to use good move counts that people would agree on. I've also put 50, added an extra move there for over the 14 because we're doing execution turn metric. So that means that a Y rotation will be another move, and in C4 you have rotation. So I think I'm being almost generous giving only 1 rotation for CFOP, because normally it's about 2. So now I'll go down. So far we've hopefully established that ZZ is definitely more efficient by up here. So by roughly okay, 7 moves in the best case and 3 moves in the worst case. So that means if we're going to use this equation, we can work out how much faster you need to turn, how much faster you need to turn for CFOP to get a 6 average. So we can use this equation. We're going to be using the Exio cross, by the way, because I believe that's the best for TPS, which I'll come on to in a sec. So using Exio cross, you need 8.42 for ZZ with Exio cross versus 9.375 for CFOP with X cross. So that means you need 0.955 higher TPS. That's basically another term TPS higher, which, to be fair, is a relatively big ask for fast solvers. So let's say Felix with current TPS, if he switched to ZZ, he'd average faster. That's if his TPS was constant, and I'll get onto that in a bit. So even if we used EO cross, you need about 0.5 less TPS with ZZ than with CFOP, which, even though it's only 0.5, that's a lot at the higher level. Like, because when you're turning it like 9 TPS, increasing that is quite hard, because look ahead is being pushed to its limit. So we're going to go on to TPS. So I've got each ZZ variant here. This is for the first step. So each ZZ variant here and how it compares to X cross in terms of TPS. So E across is equal to X cross because you're planning the same amount of moves, and you have more time to automate it. Whereas with X line and X across, you've got more moves to plan, more pieces to track, so it's harder to get the same TPS. So that's why I've done that. So E across is equal, the TPS of X line is worse than X cross, and same with X across. So now this is to do with F2L. So E across F2L and X across F2L is definitely better than X cross F2L. I'll tell you why. Sorry. So firstly, if you've watched Simon's video about this subject, he said about how ZZ F2L is very algorithmic, and I would agree with him completely, because you've got 4 pairs, 4 slots, half the cases of CFOP F2L, and no rotations. So you can, for at least last slot, well, last 2 slots even, it's very easy to learn speed optimal algorithms for each pair, and then they're almost certainly going to be faster than the speed optimal algorithms for a lot of cases in CFOP, because you will either have lots of RU insert, or lots of RU. That's all you need. And you also have cases that appear more often, such as this. So you've got that sort of you can keyhole insert and solve 2 at once. That does happen in CFOP too, but it's a lot easier to recognise in ZZ and appears more often. Also, as it's rotationless, you save a regrip there, and also as you've solved E across or X E across, it's there are much fewer regrips. I'd argue less than in CFOP now, because if you're doing in CFOP, let's say I had something like this, ignore that, and I would pair that up like that and insert with L moves. Actually no, that's a bad example. Yeah, here, so I do that, and I could either hedge, which isn't that bad, but there's no really good option there. Like, that's an okay option, but it's not the best case ever. Whereas with ZZ, the bad cases, so for example, wait a second, that's not a really bad case. Now that would do. No, I'm trying to wait. Can't set up. Ignore yo. But here, it's still 2 gen, and you'll get that twice the time as you would in CFOP. And like, that was a relatively bad case for ZZ. Yeah, I don't know OLL, but it was still good, if you get me. Like, it was good for a bad case, and there aren't really any bad cases in ZZ, apart from maybe like one case which can be avoided as well with U2 inserts, etc., or L prime insert L. So now I've hopefully established that the TPS of ZZ F2L is, with X cross solved, is better than, with E across is better than CFOP F2L. But the reason why I think that over here, like, that's the move count for X E line, that's the move count for X E across. But the reason why I say X E across is better, even if X E line is more efficient, is because its TPS is worse, because you have extra regrips and awkward moves. So that's why. Going back to this, I know well, going back to the whole thing, I know that rotations aren't bad, but it's better to not rotate. Like, that's generally a thing, and why not just avoid them entirely while being more efficient? Anyway, so that is better than that. I hope I've established that, because it seems obvious to me. And also, if you solve left first, so you do RU, LU insert, RU, LU insert, and then you've got RU spam for the next two pairs, which is very good and very fast. So now let's go on to last layer. So I'd say that ZBLL and OLL-PLL in terms of recognition time and TPS are about equal, because you have one long recognition step and then an alg versus two shorter recognition steps but two algorithms. So this is better than this, but not by massive amounts, but actually it is by quite a lot because of the reduced move count. But in terms of TPS and time spent recognizing, it's equal. It's just because that is higher move count that it is worse than that. It's like when one look last layer becomes a thing though, they'd be equal because one long recognition steps and then an alg that's efficient. I hope that made sense. But I would just say I think that in terms of recognition time, got it written down here, you've got, if you have COLL prediction in last slot, which Kieran can do for CMLL IMRU, and I don't know about other solvers, but I presume they can, and OCLL prediction is a thing too, so recognize corner rotation. If you can do that, the record time, I think, I'd say for ZBLL reduces, although you could do OLL prediction, so it varies. But you could, or if you learned at least two sides of two-sided recognition for ZBLL, that would reduce the recognition time by a lot. So if you predicted COLL in last slot, that would mean solve pair while recognizing, look at two edges and solve, which is pretty decent, like for looking at two edges once you actually get to last layer. So we've established, hopefully, that ZZ, well, I think I have established quite well that ZZ is more efficient to look up here. Even the least efficient variant is more efficient than the most efficient CFAR variant. And I hopefully also established that ZZ TPS is at least equal to CFOP TPS, because that is higher for CFOP and for ZZ, and these are both equal if you do E across, and even then with X E across, it's still better because it's more efficient. So yeah, hopefully I've established that that it's better to do ZZ because better move count at least equal TPS. So guys, you should realise that ZZ is better and switch to ZZ, not CFOP, because CFOP is worse than ZZ, basically. Like, you can do tricks and stuff in CFOP to reduce things like edge control or things like that, but people don't do that every solve, unless you get someone who uses something like ZB, which I would then say is about equal to ZZ. Or if you've heard about it, Zipper, I'd also say is equal to ZZ. And then now I'll compare it to the numbers that Kian used for his ZZ roux thing. So all we need to care about is that roux equals 6 for his numbers. So roux equals 6. And then we can go down here. Do I have them written down? Yeah, so if we're going to do XEO cross up here, so I'll write them down. So XEO cross left, right, and then ZBLL, and then time, predicted time. So he said, what an amazing table. So he said that for ZZ, it's about 1.2 seconds for ear line. So if we're going to solve 5 more pieces in inspection, I'd say it should go up to around 2 seconds. So I'll put 2 there because to solve ear line in 1.2 seconds, you're doing 7 moves, and then you're adding just over 50% moves, more moves on. So I'll show you what I mean. So you're doing 1.2 for 7 moves, and so let's just say 8 because it makes the maths a lot easier. Hang on, move from over here. So let's say 8 because it makes the maths a lot easier. So 1, 2, 8 moves. So you've got a ratio of I can't do maths. So what's 12 divided by 8? 0.15 seconds per move for 1 move. Therefore, for 13 moves, you have about, is it 1.8? Somewhere around there. I'm not in the mood for maths at the moment. I'll do it quickly. So 12 divided by 8. Yeah, 0.15. And then 0.15 times by 13 equals 1.95. Yep. So basically, using the ratios that Kian gave us, we can work out that it's about 2 seconds. Let's just use 2. That's probably too complicated, but hopefully you got me. So now we're doing 1 pair on the left, 1 pair that's mostly RU, then an LU insert. I'd say that's about 0.7 seconds for that pair because you're having 1 switch between RU. 0.7. And now for the right, you're doing 2 RU quite fast pairs. So I wouldn't be surprised if 1.2 is possible for them. That, to be honest, that sounds quite good and quite realistic for someone who's quite fast. So just RU spam and not having to worry about orientation. Plus, unless you're gonna do something stupid like I normally do when I'm solving, like stay up tripod, like so I inserted that pair there, but backwards. Unless you're not going to actually pair it up, the solutions are going to be very good. So I'd say 0.6 per pair is very realistic here. So I'd happily say 1.2 seconds there. Now, Kian said that ZBLL is about 2.2 seconds. I would be inclined to say it's more like 2, because if you think about it, well, firstly, Jabari, he was getting mid to low 2s with no recognition, and he said in the description that he gets more information when you're solving in that slot or something along those lines. So with some recognition, that could probably drop to 2.1-ish, because he's also using Felix's numbers for one set from a CFOPper. So whereas if you're a ZZer or someone who's ZB, for example, who forced it every time, you'd have a lot more practice of all the L's, and you'd probably be able to sit down and drill them to 1.2 on average, maybe less, if you cared. And I'm not saying that Felix doesn't care, I'm just saying that the ZBL isn't his top priority, probably, and he hasn't drilled the algs down to be majorly fast. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe that ZBLL as a step can average 2 seconds, and could quite easily average, well, not easily, but with some work could average 2 seconds. Plus, if you did it every solve, the cases would stay more fresh in your head and you'd be able to do it well. So I'll put 2 seconds. You might disagree, you probably will disagree, but I don't. So if we're going to be really nice, we can say 2.1 to those who want me to. But anyway, if you totaled that up, you'd get 6 seconds. But if you use that as 2.0, you'd get 5.9. And they are quite realistic numbers using this maths and then I guess common sense for the rest of them. So with this, I'd say that ZZ would be quite equal to Roo, because with Roo you can't get, well, certainly on blocks you can't get as good a TPS, because Kian's is very good for blocks and his isn't, like, his TPS isn't like up there with Max's or Felix's, because they just have to turn ridiculously fast. But if you can get the TPS of a CFOP solver, which I am 100% sure you can with ZZ, and then be that efficient, you should be averaging even faster than this. And I'd say that ZZ is definitely equal to Roo, and Roo and ZZ are better than CFOP, because of the fact, for ZZ at least, that you've got same TPS, less turns, and for Roo you can sacrifice more of that TPS to be more efficient. So I hope I've shown that ZZ is better than CFOP, and that Roo is also better than CFOP, and that CFOP should be, well, is probably more equal to Pectorus, because Pectorus has a really low TPS, or relatively. So yeah, CFOP is only, in my opinion, has only come this far because it's been around for, what, almost 40 years, and has been very developed by a lot of people, whereas ZZ and Roo, even though they've been around for a while, they haven't been fully developed. For example, I've got a ZZ variant which could be good, I'm not sure. I've got some of the algs on all of them and the numbers aren't exact, but if we're going to use, as I said earlier, for EO 2x2x2, EO 2x2, and then you're going to have, the next step is front left pair plus back right square. So that's basically solve, those two steps are basically solve F2L plus EO, but not these three pieces. So you've got something like that. And then you've got last 5 corners, then last 6 EP. So if we're going to use 9 for that, that's about 14, because a square is 14, and so is a pair, because it's how it works. And then I know that that's about 11 moves. It's like mid 10, so we'll say 12 including AOF. So this is, I don't know, but for about the 20 algs I've looked at, well, I've genned, they all seem to have a maximum move count of 11. So I'll again put, so it'll more likely be about 10. So I'll put 11.5 for now, but that is subject to change definitely. And I'd be surprised if it stays that. So if we're gonna add that up, that's 46.5 moves, which is equal to Rue. So this is called Water ZZ because you're solving 6 edges at the end. It's more to do with Water Rue than to do with Waterman, but I'm not sure how good it could be or will be, but it's another option for those who prefer block building with ZZ, and it's also some development in ZZ which we haven't seen for a while. So actually there has been some development recently as well as that, because a lot of ZZ solvers have switched to EO Cross, and I've realised that it's better for two-handed, which I'd say even 2 years ago a lot of people were against the idea of EO Cross, but now it's gaining acceptance, which is good, and hopefully it will help ZZ to become one of the fastest methods again, well, one of the big three, and cement itself. So yeah, I think that ZZ and Rue are better than CFOP. If you disagree with me, leave a comment saying why. If you agree with me, leave a comment saying why, because we need to keep this discussion going, and hopefully we can make people realise that ZZ is better than CFOP, and in fact CFOP should be the one to be removed from the big three. I'm saying that genuinely because even though ZZ, well, it could still be in there because it's still a very good method, but it's just not the best, I don't think. If you use something like ZB on the other hand, I could see why it's the best, or Walnut Last Layer. Well, actually, I think that if Walnut Last Layer actually becomes a viable thing that loads of people do, ZZ becomes kind of irrelevant, because the advantages you get from ZZ all build up in the end with ZBLL, whereas if you get a Walnut Last Layer with CFOP and with Walnut Last Layer, not with VLS or something like that, you'll be beating ZZ in terms of first layers move count. Yeah, so switch to ZZ please. We need fast people to show that it's fast. I'm trying, other people are trying, but we need more people to try. Cool, thanks for watching. Just have a good day, I guess, and switch to ZZ.